don't know how many pigeons are out. When do pigeons go to bed?
What do you mean?
Welcome to Baggage Claim, an unofficial Jet Lag the Game companion podcast. We're continuing our off-season tradition of rewatching past seasons while waiting for the next one. Today, we're unpacking episode 5 of season 3, Tag Eur It. I'm Jaya.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Kira.
Casey, when were you last in the woods?
I was in the woods this morning.
Whoa!
Look, I have reached the age in my mid-20s where I am getting really into running, and we don't have to talk about it.
It happens to the best of us, Casey.
Unfortunately, I turned 26, and I was like, I have to start running. So I run through the woods most mornings, and it's been so beautiful the last few weeks because all of the leaves have finally fully turned autumnal colors.
Kira, when were you last in the woods?
I think it's been a hot second. I've been thinking about it. There are no good woods around me right now in the UK. I'm pretty sure the last time I was in the woods was when I was home in California in September before the new academic year started. And on the coast, there's a little, redwood grove that'll count as the woods.
Totally
That absolutely counts.
It's sort of the nebulous area between beach and woods where it mostly smells like redwoods, but then it's
classic California
on
coastline
a cliff.
Moment.
Very Northern California.
I love California.
I think I was last in the woods last week. There's a protected natural area up by the river near me, near my boathouse where I go. And my partner likes bird watching there. And so I said, I'll take a walk with you. And they brought their binoculars, and I went and crunched on a bunch of leaves.
Yes.
And it was delightful. Let's jump into a recap. Things get real sticky for everyone in this episode. Previously, Sam and Adam had got off their train to Maubeuge one stop early to try and cut Ben off later, but Ben, not realizing they had been on this train, waited and got right on it, unknowingly running away from the chasers. Sam and Adam now can't get to the small town of Maubeuge, so they have to try and figure out where Ben is going when Ben himself doesn't even know. The chasers make the right decision to go to Brussels, but the fastest train is sold out, so they're stuck taking a long roundabout route through Amiens and then Lille. While in Maubeuge, Ben decides that he will be going to Lille and then Brussels, which he already has enough budget for, allowing him to get out of Lille a full hour before the chasers will arrive there. He still pulls the challenge to go 1 mile, filming himself like the TikToks where people put their phone in their mouth and then pick up their cats and then spin them in a circle, ultimately vetoing the challenge because it would take more than a half hour and he's afraid that the chasers are already in Maubeuge. So instead of doing challenges, he hides in the woods completely unnecessarily. Ben is afraid that the chasers are right there again once he gets to Lille, which they are not, so he continues to take the funniest possible evasive maneuvers. He finally gets to Brussels Midi station about 90 minutes before the chasers will be there, is cursed to take what ends up being a super convenient train to Brussels Central Station, and then heads to the airport to look for a fancy car. Meanwhile, the chasers finally reach Brussels while Ben's on his way to the airport, barely missing their train to the airport, but managing to take a taxi to catch Ben there before he can do another challenge, which starts Sam's run with only 39 minutes before the rest period. At the start of Sam's run, both teams think they're in a fantastic position, which means one of them has got to be wrong. Sam knows this is his only chance to make a run to his win zone, but he needs more budget to full send it all the way to Zermatt, causing him to double up on his next challenge, to touch an animal. The episode ends with him touching Badam for the coins and setting himself up for a 6:03 a.m. train out of Brussels, feeling very confident that despite being only 7 minutes before the chasers' jail period ends, he's in a good position. To conclude our recap, I've come up with a title to highlight the most important moment of the episode. I personally always forget when this clip happens, but I think of it all the time, so I think it would be nice to have an episode named about it, just so I can remember which episode it happened in. So I propose We're in Silly.
I love that.
Do either of you have an alternate title?
Well, so I actually jotted that down as well as a potential title because I feel like that clip just looms so large for me. And it's such a great early quote. And another early quote also by Ben in this episode that I enjoy a lot is reporting from the woods. And I felt like that also kind of encapsulated the vibes of this episode.
That is so good.
Yes.
Casey, I'll pass it to you for the Strat Chat.
Thanks, Jaya. Welcome back to the Strat Chat, our segment where we break down the strategy and gameplay of the episode. There were a few points here that I wanted to bring up, both about strategies from Ben as the runner, and also the beginning of Sam's run at the end of the episode. So first, I feel like it's worth bringing up, what did you think of Ben's strategy as the runner of going into the woods or into malls to kind of hide out to try to avoid being tagged while waiting for his next train? If the chasers were actually there, how successful do you think this strategy would actually be?
I love this strategy because it makes me feel so seen. I'm like, I would do that. That's exactly what I would be doing right now. Regardless of if I thought the chasers were there or not, I would still be paranoid that they had come up with something. And so if I wasn't doing a challenge, go hide in the woods. Like, even if it's not necessarily going to work, because he has a tracker on him. If he's just, like, in the woods, they could probably find him in the woods. So even if it's not going to be super helpful in the long run, it ultimately, like, does make him feel better. And it lets you as a runner feel like you're doing something active to prevent your tag, rather than just, like, waiting around for your next train. So I think even if it's not super helpful gameplay-wise, it's helpful enough psychically that I like it.
I do think that the woods probably were not very helpful at all, except that I loved it. So I'm thrilled that he went to the woods. I also, like you, Jaya, think that I would have gone into the woods. I do think because of the tracker, going into places where, like, it'll just tell Sam and Adam exactly where he is in the woods, that's probably not helpful. I do think that going into the mall isn't a bad idea. As we've talked about before, going into buildings that are multiple stories or buildings where there are a lot of other people, lots of crowds, lots of social interactions that you would need to navigate through in order to beeline it towards another human person. I do think that that could be clever. I think that ultimately we haven't seen any particularly long end games in tag so far. So probably if Sam and Adam had been in the same city as Ben in either of these places, it wouldn't have mattered whether Ben was hiding or not because there is a tracker. But also, maybe it would have worked.
I kind of disagree. I feel like we have seen a slightly longer end game in tag, and that was the end of Adam's run in Paris, where Sam and Ben were in Paris for a good few hours when Adam was also there, and they just couldn't really find exactly where he was because he was in the subway, and then all of a sudden he'd get on the subway and suddenly be across the city. And so I do think that, honestly, at the end of Ben's run in this episode, when he was at the airport, I feel like that would have been, like, the best hiding situation, because he was about to get on the train at the airport to take him out, and if he had just missed Sam and Adam, I think that would have been really confusing, because Sam and Adam were, like, kind of panicked running around the airport trying to figure out where he was. And it's funny because I feel like he was a little bit less concerned then with hiding than he was like going into the woods. So I do think that it could maybe tip the scales slightly, but I do agree with you, Kira. Like, it's not going to decide whether that's the end of the game or not.
It does make me think about hide and seek proper, like when they actually play hide and seek. And it makes me think of two situations. It makes me think of when Sam hid at the airport in Japan and when Sam hid in the woods in Switzerland. Those are sort of the two opposite ends of the spectrum. Honestly, neither of them went great. The woods were definitely more successful, but I think that Ben just wasn't going deep enough into the woods, and also, again, there was a tracker.
And the woods, like, I think part of why they weren't successful was just because nobody was having fun at that point, because it was wet and cold and miserable. So those woods in this situation, I think, would have also, like, had a similar effect of, like, regardless of if they work or not, it's not going to be fun.
Yes. But then on the other side of things, I will stand by that I think Sam's airport run was genius. I think
agree
it was
with you.
So smart. And so I think hiding in a big transit center or in a very crowded place, I think that would have been the move. Although now I'm also wondering whether part of the strategy that Sam was thinking about at the end of his run a little bit was where you want the catch to happen, because that is something that the runner has control over. Where if you're in a transit hub, that means that the next person's run starts from that transit hub. Whereas if you're in the woods, that means that the next person has to first get out of the woods, and that's eating into their advantage time. And so either way, the chasers will have to make that same trek back. So maybe it ultimately doesn't matter, but it's possible that the chasers could make the trek out of the woods and then take a taxi to the train station. Like, there are situations where you could make up time. And so I wonder if that's also a consideration where if Ben had really wanted to make the catch worse, so if he knew he was going to get tagged there and he just wanted to make it more inconvenient, he could have gone to a more remote spot, similarly to how Sam just kind of walked towards the water and towards the ferry in order to be far away from the train station. But I think that that's not contributing to the hiding strategy, that's contributing to the catching strategy for the runner.
That relates really well to the other question I had for both of you, which is about the chasers' jail period after they've made the tag and are waiting for the runner to get a head start for the next run. In this episode, we see that Sam is kind of put in not the best situation, where the beginning of his run and the chasers' jail period is going to be spread out over the rest period, and not give him a ton of time either at the end of the day or the beginning of the next day to get out of the location. I think we see him kind of trying to strategize the best he can with regard to the rest period and the chasers freeze. He does the double up card. He tries to maximize the coins from the challenge that he pulls to get a quick train out the next morning. But in the episode, we don't see him really attempt to go to a different stop in the city or reposition himself from a different starting point. What do you think of his strategy here, and was there a better one?
I will say this with the caveat that I do not remember what happens at the start of his run. Like, I don't remember what happens at the start of day 3, so I don't know what ultimately ends up being the right move here. But his strategy made me really nervous, because I mean, he needs to go back to Brussels Midi anyways. That's the station that they came in from. And that train is shorter than 30 minutes. And so I'm just a little puzzled as to why he didn't try to go to Brussels Midi station before pulling a challenge. Where, like, ultimately it kind of worked out for him because the animals that he touched were in this station and were stuck in this station. But yeah, I wonder if he could have taken that first train just to the other stop in the city, because he doesn't know, maybe the train out of Brussels the next morning is gonna be delayed by 7 minutes. Then what? Maybe he's not gonna be able to get out of the airport. Then he's just stuck in the exact same place right when the jail period ends. Like, that's always just gonna be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen across Sam's runs that he tends to play the high risk, high reward track. It even aligns with how he did the double up power up in this beginning of his run, where if he had needed to veto the challenge or if he had failed the challenge, he would basically be resigning himself to getting tagged immediately and just not having a run. And so it feels like he likes to say, this is my most optimal strategy. I have to go for it, even if there's a high likelihood of it failing, and just kind of letting it go up to chance. I think that it is an interesting strategy. I will say I didn't really feel nervous watching it in this episode. I also don't remember what happens in the beginning of episode 6, so I'm kind of on the edge of my seat. I don't remember whether he gets tagged immediately or not, but hearing him explain his plan, it sounded very reasonable to me. But also, having seen lots of seasons of Jet Lag and lots of seasons of Tag, I just know that Sam's luck is really bad. And it makes me nervous in that way, seeing him put all of his eggs in one basket and do the high risk, high reward strategy, because I just know that more likely than not, it'll end up with the risk and not the reward. But if he had the luck of an ordinary person, I would say I think it's a fine strategy.
I feel like usually with train delays, he tends to have similar luck to the rest of them, where, sure, there are certainly examples of him having the most insane delays we've ever seen on jet lag, but at least up until this point, like, a lot of the delays that he had experienced were similar to what everybody else had, and so, specifically with banking on a train that leaves 7 minutes before the jail period is up, I guess he might just not be thinking that that's likely to be delayed. I mean, because it's beginning of the day, those are already going to be less likely to be delayed. It's going out from the airport, there's got to be pretty regular trains, and maybe 7 minutes just feels like enough. I don't know, but ooh, I'm scared.
Well, I love that all three of us have kind of retained no memory of Sam's second run in this season. So I guess we're on the edge of our seats for the next episode. But with that, I will turn things over to Kira.
Thanks, Casey. Welcome back to Challengers, our segment where we explore alternate ideas for how to complete a certain challenge. Definitely the most hotly discussed challenge in this episode was the infamous touch an animal that's not a pet challenge, where Sam determines that a human is an animal. My question to you is, if the challenge had specified that it had to be a non-human animal, what would you have done to complete this challenge? So as a reminder, the language on this card is the animal must be mouse-sized or bigger, the animal must be alive, and the animal may be in captivity or domesticated, but it may not be attempting to become a pet. For example, no shelters and no pet stores.
Okay, I have two immediate thoughts. One, attempting to become a pet is the funniest possible wording they could have put on that card. I don't know why, that just really tickles me. Two, Kira, you're a stinker because I saw that you put this in the Google Doc as a challengers, but I didn't see that you had specified a non-human animal, because my response to this was going to be, Sam is right, you should touch a person.
I do think he's obviously right. I am a defender of Sam in this moment.
I am a huge defender of this.
There are certain situations where I will be on the side of the people and go anti-Sam. For instance, all of the gambling in circumnavigation. We don't stand by him on 17. On this, I stand by Sam.
Yes, I stand by Stinker Sam a lot, and reading between the lines of the card Sam. My first thoughts on what to do with this challenge, if it had specified that it had to be a non-human animal, are either, does Brussels have a zoo? You could have probably taken, like, a local metro to the zoo, or could he have gone to a vet? Because a lot of the time, vets will have, like, animals that just sort of live there and are roaming there. For example, at my partner's work, they recently had a cat named Tartar Sauce, who just, like, he was the vet's office cat who was there. He did get adopted recently, actually.
But it wasn't an attempt. That was just sort of circumstantial.
Yeah, like, he belonged there, I guess. Because they said that the animal could be in captivity or domesticated, but it can't be attempting to become a pet. Which makes me think that if it's... Oh no, it can't already be a pet. And I feel like a cat that lives in a vet's office is kind of already... It's just like the collective pet. Never mind then.
It's a really hard challenge, I will say. Reading through the fine print, it is really hard.
I think so too. And I'm really struggling to think about what I would do, because I feel like I would be disincentivized to, like, go to a zoo or another, like, area, because that's just such a huge time sink.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would probably... I mean, I honestly thought Sam's idea of getting a police dog at the airport, like a sniffer dog, was not the worst idea, except that you obviously can't touch them. But I feel like maybe if you asked really nicely and talked to the right people and were willing to really take your time with it, you could, like, interact with a dog who's off duty or something. But ultimately, I feel like that would take the same amount of time as just, like, taking the train 30 minutes to the zoo. Yeah, but I don't think I would think about it that way. You know, like, I think that honestly...
It would feel different.
It would feel different. Just, like... I feel like in this situation, I would be much more likely to try to touch a pigeon even if it took me half an hour, you know? Like, even if it was clear I was sinking so much time into it.
But at 7:30 p.m., I don't know how many pigeons are out. When do pigeons go to bed?
What do you mean? Pigeons are definitely out. Or, like,
I've never seen a pigeon at night.
But if it's summer and it's still light out. If it's still light out, there's going to be pigeons roaming.
That's a great point. Right now it's getting dark at 3:45. I can't remember what summer is like.
I'm trying to think of other places that you could go to do this, and
let's just list some animals that would even fit. So you could do wild bird like pigeon.
Yeah.
You could do sniffer dog or other like employed animal with a job.
Dog with a job.
Dog with a job.
You could go to the zoo.
You could go touch a raccoon in the wild.
Pull an elf.
But it really is like either fully wild animal, thing in like animal rehab or captivity or zoo, or human.
It makes me wonder what they were intending when they wrote this card, because it just seems so hard.
Here's my question, is that they say that the animal may be in captivity/domesticated, but it can't be a pet. Does this mean that it can be like a horse but a loose one? Or like
yes, I would say
but a feral cat?
I think that's an animal with a job. A horse at a stable that like works, that people are allowed to rent to ride.
Okay, so it can be animal with a job.
I think that animal
domesticated
has a job.
Domesticated and has a job, but not domesticated and is a pet.
I think so. Like, I think
I agree with that.
If you were to become a cowboy, I think that horse is a horse with a job and not a pet.
I agree.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna get the Western crowd against me.
I feel like, if anything, you'll get the Western crowd on your side, because, I don't know, vibes in my mind. You could touch a rat in the subway.
Ew! And get diseases.
And to get to the plague. The bigger than a mouse is what keeps getting me, is I'm like, you can touch bugs.
Yeah.
But are bugs
bigger
animals?
Bigger than how old of... Yes.
Casey, we simply cannot get into it.
Casey, bugs are animals.
What about fish? Are fish animals?
Fish are animals.
Fish are more animal than bugs. Well, I think the conclusion we have at the end of this Challengers is that Sam did the right thing by touching a human. So with that, I will pass things over to Jaya.
Thanks, Kira. Well, continuing our animal talk, there were a lot of animals in this episode. So I wanted to combine two highly specific moments in this episode to make one very strange train of lies for you both.
Uh-oh.
First, we saw Ben hiding in the woods completely unnecessarily. And then, we saw Adam just continuing to mention Crypto et les Super Animaux, or in English, DC's League of Super Pets, a movie about Superman's pet dog named Crypto and a shelter dog Ace who work together with other animals to save captured superheroes from Lex Luthor and a guinea pig named Lulu.
What did you just say?
And I looked it up on Wikipedia. So today's train of lies is about the real-life counterparts of the animals in the movie Super Pets that were in the woods.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
So our first car on the train of lies is about the main character in the movie. As I mentioned previously, he's a Kryptonian Labrador Retriever named Crypto, voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
What?
Now, Kryptonian labs aren't a real kind of lab. But have you heard the story of the Beast of Bodmin Moor? Because this is a cryptid from Cornwall, England, right on the edge of a forest, even though Cornwall is known for its cliffs. According to legend, people began seeing a large black animal roaming the windswept moors and slinking in and out of the forests at night. It was as big as 5 feet, not including its tail, so just its body, and it moved with incredible grace and speed. People have attempted to debunk it with many, many, many different stories, and one of them was that it was an escaped black Labrador in the mid-18th century, because Labradors were actually still being, developed as a breed at that point in England. So the beast could just be explained by people not knowing what a Labrador was yet and saying, that's not the shape of dog I would recognize as a dog.
Whoa.
That's so funny.
Second, also in this movie, a guinea pig named Lulu accidentally gives every pet in the shelter superpowers. One of these pets is Merton, a nearsighted turtle voiced by Natasha Lyonne, who gains super speed. Every word I say feels like the craziest word I've ever said right now.
We're in Zendaya is Michi, but for super pets.
Now, turtles exist in most of the world, excluding just the really cold bits, the Arabian Peninsula, the Andes in Chile, the center of Australia, and New Zealand. Turtles are everywhere else, including the ocean. And if you know one thing about turtles, it's probably that they are extremely long-lived. So I would like to tell you about the oldest turtle ever recorded. He was a charapa or a rao turtle in the Amazon basin, so they live in a lot of Amazon rainforest rivers. They're some of the biggest freshwater turtles in, I think, all of Latin America, and it lived to the very respectable age of 199.
Jeez.
The final pet I want to tell you about is Chip, a paranoid squirrel with electrokinesis played by Diego Luna.
What? That's the craziest casting of all of them. That's unreal. Diego Luna? I
played
love
Chip,
him.
a paranoid squirrel with electrokinesis.
Oh my god.
God.
I just know he bodied that role. He could do no wrong. Oh, I love him.
So what I want to tell you about is what I believe to be a Kewahin Cree story about the squirrel Ankiwakas. The story goes that Ankiwakas was a land creature, just fully on the surface of the earth, not up in the trees, until the marten showed up, think pine martens, weasel family. The marten liked to eat mice, but one day he came across the squirrel, mistook it for a really fat mouse, and tried to eat him. Ankiwakas the squirrel was, of course, deeply offended, but the marten still wanted to eat him, so it tricked him into climbing a tree because of the tasty, tasty pine cones, and was then planning to throw the squirrel off the top of the tree. In the tree, the squirrel found that not only could he now outrun the marten, but he also loved eating pine cones, and could throw them at the marten. And since that day, so very long ago, Ankiwakas the squirrel is at home in the trees, still eating pine cones and throwing them down at whatever threatens him from the ground. Which of those three stories is true?
I have an initial gut reaction, which is that I feel like the middle one is true. The one about the oldest... Did you say the oldest turtle?
Yeah.
Okay, I've immediately turned back on myself because I think it was the oldest tortoise.
Ooh, what do you know about the oldest tortoise?
Well, I think I've heard something similar to what you described, but I think it was a tortoise and not a turtle, but now I'm getting nervous again, and so now maybe I do think it's true. No. I'm going to say that the middle one is a lie, because I think it was a tortoise and not a turtle.
I do agree. I think that the middle one, 199, is just really old. I don't know that I believe that. I feel like the last one feels like it could be true to me. The first one, I liked the fact about how Labradors were still being developed at the time. But now I'm like, what if Labradors, are ancient beasts? And that's
they were there
not,
at the same time as the original wolf.
And that's not what if that's not the explanation there? So I kind of feel inclined to say the third one about the squirrel is true and the first two are lies.
I'm inclined to say that the first one is true, the one about the Labradors, and I think my reasoning is that it makes sense to me that there's lots of mythology and lots of stories, explanation stories that anthropomorphize things that are not typically anthropomorphized. But I feel like I associate that more with stories of constellations and stories of gods and stuff like that, where they're always talking animals and anthropomorphized rocks and stuff like that. It is a little bit surprising to me that in this story, the animals are so anthropomorphized and it feels like it's just explaining animal behavior. I don't know that I've seen that before. I've seen that with describing weather patterns and constellations and stuff like that feels less alive to begin with. But so I think I'm inclined to say that that one is a lie and that instead it is the Labrador one that's true.
So Casey, you have guessed that the squirrel is true, and
Yes.
Kira, you are guessing that the Labradors are true.
Yes.
Yes.
And Casey, you are correct. The squirrel story was true.
Yay! It was such a
Kira,
wild
what you
story.
failed to consider about that is that, in fact, that it felt so normal to me as a story because I grew up listening to, like, Indian folk tales, and so many of them are just, like, talking animals, and, like, a lot of cultures will have folk tales about animal behaviors because that's a good way to remember them. You want to remember that the squirrels are fast in the trees and slow on the ground, and they eat pine cones and can throw them at whatever is on the ground.
That makes total sense.
And so a lot of the time you'll get folklore that's like this. The turtle was completely a lie. You guys got me. I was just running short on time and couldn't find a good turtle story that I wanted to tell you about. According to National Geographic, the oldest turtle ever was named Tui Malila, and it lived in Tonga and died at the grand old age of 188.
Wow.
Closer to 199 than I thought possible.
And I am pretty sure tortoises live longer, but I could be wrong. The cryptid in Cornwall is better thought to be like an escaped panther from a zoo.
Whoa!
Oh, whoa.
Or like from somebody's private collection, like a secret private collection of exotic animals, because that's so
cool.
mid-1900s of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot more cat-like of a creature than dog-like. I just wanted a Labrador story because the main character is a Labrador from Krypton, voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Crazy.
So funny.
Well, congratulations, Casey. You have won this train of lies.
Yippee!
And with that, why don't you lead us off in our Rose, Thorn, and Bloom?
Thanks, Jaya. My rose is I really enjoyed the whole sequence of Ben reporting from the woods. There are no updates from the woods, just generally being in the woods. It was so random and so early jet lag and very iconic to me. I do remember watching it for the first time and being like, why is he in the woods? Like, really, I think it really tickled me. My thorn is that I am the worst Team Sam fan in the world because I fully forgot he got another run in this season. I think that I might have just conflated it with another season of Tag. And look, there are many seasons of Tag, so I hope that this is a forgivable offense. But when it started to look like he was going to get another run, I was like, oh my god, are we so bad?
Well, you said it with so much confidence, and I, like, just fully will believe anything that you tell me, I think. And so I completely believed you on that until it became his run again, and I was like, huh.
Little bonus.
My bad. My bad. My bloom is that this is not the end of airport shenanigans in Tag, and chasers being very worried that a runner is going to take an airplane. I thought that was fun.
Kira, what about you?
My rose is that I really liked all the tree jokes that Adam was making. I thought they were very goofy. My thorn is that Ben voluntarily gave his bottle of water to a French teen who just asked, bro, what are you doing?
So funny.
It made me laugh, but also like, what is he drinking all day?
Oh, God, I know.
And my bloom is that I would argue this is the OG rap mode. When Ben got the curse where he needed to roll the die and see where he ended up to see which train to take, this feels like Ben going rap mode before rap mode even existed.
You're so right. This is rap mode 0.5.
This is 0.5.
My rose is that I love the humans are animals gambit. It is so funny to me. Sam was 100% right for that, and I will not hear any arguments about it. And now that we've determined that if humans hadn't been included, this card would have been so difficult, I feel even more strong on that point. My thorn, I don't really have a real thorn because I love this episode. So my silly thorn is that when Adam started saying crypto and the super animals, it made me think that he was going to say something about cryptocurrency, and I didn't like remembering that cryptocurrency existed. And my bloom is that Ben found a Lego store, and I love it every time Legos come up in Jetlag the game.
Yes.
And with that, thank you for waiting at Baggage Claim. Let us know your thoughts on socials at baggageclaimpod or over email, which is in the episode description. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a comment or give us a follow. We'll see you next week at the Squirrel Baggage Claim. You can fall all the way down there, and your terminal velocity won't kill you. Goodbye!
Goodbye!
Hell yeah,
I
dude!
saw your Strava.
No,
Oh my god, we should
don't
be
at
Strava
me.
friends. I have two friends on Strava, and my sister and our friend Lily. And I also follow Sam on Strava.
I was gonna say, I follow Kira, Sam, and Michelle.
I almost didn't let Casey follow me because I'm so protective and private about how I'm embarrassing with my running.
Listen, Kira, my first thing I ever posted on Strava was a run where I decided I didn't want to run anymore halfway through it and went on the swings at the park.
That absolutely rules.
Stop, that's awesome.
And so I was like, well, if I start with the most embarrassing thing, I just never need to feel bad ever again.
That's
And
not
you're
even
right for
embarrassing.
that.
That's just awesome.